When you record, get it to you, and then
We give Twyla crap about it first.
when I was on the phone with him, you were calling. So
What is this
I
mess?
took this part of my packet out.
As they come through, then we'll take it out. It just needed for tonight.
All right, I'll let it slide this time. Only because it's you.
Thank you, Twyla. Right, everybody's ready. Oh, is that Diane? Okay. I'll call this workshop to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And can we do roll call, please, Twyla?
Sure. Councilor Garrison?
Present.
Councilor Lunt?
Here.
Councilor McTevier?
Here.
Councilor Bickford?
Yeah.
Councilor Ward?
Here.
Councilor Pesky?
Here.
And Councilor Brunel is excused.
And the first workshop item.
Personnel policy review.
Okay, and I'm going to turn that over to Diane.
I think what we'll do is just go through the pages where we have the proposed amendments, and if we do that, I think we can get through this. On page 17 is the first one, and it's leave of absence, section 90-18, and we're proposing to eliminate the language with the concurrence of the town council. Typically, this is a manager's decision, and you shouldn't have to go to council when somebody needs a leave of absence, as long as we're following the policy that's in place.
Okay.
Okay, so, I mean, that's more of an operations-type issue than it is a policy issue. And then the next page, the sick leave, and because of the change from weekly to biweekly payroll, it would be a lot easier if we did the earned accrual at 8 hours per month rather than so many hours per week. So it'll be just a straight 8 hours each month for those employees in the town office. The next page, page 19, we have the, this is still under sick leave, entitlement upon separation. I mean, you can leave this in if you want, but I just, well, it's actually not in there. It's proposed new language. Right now, your sick leave entitlement states that after 15 years of continued service, the town will pay out 1/4 of the accumulated unused sick leave up to a maximum of 30 days. But it doesn't discuss if an employee was terminated for cause, and I just didn't think that if you're going to terminate somebody for cause, you're going to pay them out their sick leave that's on the books. So I thought that would be good language to put in there. And then we have a sick leave bank. That's current language in the policy, and what we just want to do is put some parameters on this, where an employee shall designate on a form provided by the town by June 30th of each fiscal year. So it's a one-time deal that they can do on an annual basis if they have more than the amount they're allowed to carry on the books at that time on June 30th of each year. That way they can't go back prior years and say, I want to put what I had from prior years into a sick bank. They have to do it once a year, and if they don't request it by June 30th, then they can't. It goes away. Then the next section, 90-22, is your vacation leave, and we're proposing to go from get 3 weeks of accrued vacation time instead of 7 years after 5 years, 4 weeks after 12, and 5 weeks after 18. And this would be in line with all the union contracts. That's the current language in the union contracts. That way all the employees are treated the same. So that's our proposal on that. Then I did find a couple of things that you don't have, and I'll tell you what those are. We have the appeal procedure. Currently, by the charter, the town manager has the right to hire and fire the town manager's appointed employees. Therefore, the way this appeal procedure is currently talked about is that the appeal would go to the council, but yet the council does not have the right to hire or fire. So we're proposing to change that language, but yet the employee still has to have a fair hearing, and I have to grant that fair hearing as a town manager, so that they do have the due process, and we're not missing a step in the due process. So we do have that language change, because it does conflict with the town charter.
Was that whole paragraph changed, Diane?
Yeah, we actually put, we took out, the town manager shall render a decision to all parties in writing. We took that out and inserted, meet with the employee within 10 calendar days, and we had 7 before, from the town manager's receipt of the appeal, and shall issue a decision to all parties within the 7 calendar days of the meeting. So that's new, that's what I would have to do. And the decision of the town manager shall be final, and the language we're taking out is may be appealed to the town council. And if the condition of employment involves a decision by the town manager, then the appeal shall be directly to town council with notice of the appeal to be filed with the council chairman. This procedure shall not apply to the dismissal of a probationary employee. And this language that I've inserted and deleted, I did check with legal on it, our labor attorney.
Okay.
Those changes don't seem to show up in the version we
Right,
have.
that's why I was
Yeah.
confused, that we're not seeing those changes.
Are you not seeing that on the,
No.
No.
are you on page 23?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's, everything else is marked as clear to see. This paragraph
have the
doesn't have
original
it.
one with
I'm
the changes.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I think that's why we were questioning, but in my discussion with you earlier this week, though, what I understood was that because the council isn't involved with employment
That's right.
business, that's the manager's job, that there's not a reason for the council to be appealed to.
Right. Here, let me pass this around so you can see. And then the next, I'll just go on to the next one, and then I'll give you this sheet. Under general, all employees are expected and required to treat the public with promptness, patience, courtesy, and respect. And I just wanted to include supervisors and other employees in there so that they treat everybody that way.
This is the change.
I think that change is why we had to send out a second one to you. Did you notice that I sent out another
Okay.
revision?
I only have the printed one that was in my box with me. I
Okay,
don't have the
all
one that
right,
w-
all
I
right,
didn't
that's
reprint
why.
it.
That's why.
Okay.
Okay, on page 26, we have health insurance. And we added, the town shall provide health insurance benefits, and what we struck was the Maine Municipal Employees Health Trust, MMEHT dual option comprehensive plan, single two-person or family plan. You no longer have the health insurance through the health trust, but you still provide health insurance. And by not designating who's providing the health insurance, if you decide to go back to some other company, we won't have to make any changes in the personnel policy moving forward. It just says we're going to provide health insurance benefits. And then we struck the other language because it all pertains to the health trust, which you no longer have for your health insurance, the point-of-service plan and the comprehensive plan. So everything that's struck there was totally associated with the health trust. And then the retirement, flexible pre-tax benefits and Social Security. You had old language that referred back to the Maine State Retirement System, and they've had a change now, and they're called Maine Public Employers Retirement System. And this language that we have that we're updating is exactly what the Maine State Retirement or Maine Public Employers Retirement System suggested that we put in the policy. So nothing refers to Maine State Retirement anymore, but it refers to Maine PERS, and everything in here is how it works. So that's just another housekeeping. It's no change, but it's a housekeeping change to update our policy with what's currently going on down at the state. And then on page 28, since we don't have a vision plan that we offer the employees, I thought if we inserted vision plan effective January 2015, the town may provide a vision plan to all full-time employees. The plan premiums shall be borne entirely by the employees. And what we would do on this is we would probably go with the health trust. That way, there's no exposure for you. Because if you self-insure a vision, even though you're not paying any employees, you still have to pay the premiums and pay the claims. And if the premiums don't cover the claims, then that's your exposure. If you go to the health trust and you're not paying any part of the premium, you have absolutely no exposure. So that's what I would suggest, and it's relatively cheap. And the main thing here is we don't expose the town to any liability. And when you self-insure, that sometimes that will happen. It's great if you're contributing to the premium and you can save money, but when you're not going to contribute anything, it's not going to cost the town to have this plan. There's no sense in exposing yourself to any type of risk.
Do we have a dollar amount that this would cost per year?
For the employees?
Yeah. Or for the town?
It's not going to cost the town anything.
So no
Nothing.
cost to the town?
No, the employee will bear the whole premium themselves, and it's like $11 a month to have a vision plan, but it's not going to cost the town anything because you're not going to contribute to the premium.
So what is the benefit to adding it to the personnel policy?
To offer vision to employees.
So they get it cheaper if we go they go through the
Exactly.
town?
If you can go, yes, because you can go with the risk pool at MMA and get a really cheap rate for vision insurance. Currently, you don't have a vision insurance plan. And
An added benefit.
it's an
for
added
employees, so-
benefit to the employee that doesn't cost the town anything, the way I want to set it up. But if we self-insured a vision plan, like through Ultra Benefits, then there would be exposure and there would be a cost to you because you'd have to pay the claims. On page 29 is your computer system and electronic communications policy. That, go back to my notes here. That's a policy that's currently on the books, and we just want to move it to the personnel policy. Is that correct, Jody? So there's no change there. It's the same policy that's currently on the books. Page 36, mileage reimbursement. Currently, we have the verbiage in there that we're going to reimburse at the Maine Municipal Association standard. Well, they don't have a standard. They follow the Internal Revenue Service rate, so we just changed it to the Internal Revenue Service rate. Smoking policy. This is a new policy. You currently have just a small paragraph in your smoking policy, and we've expanded that, and this has gone through the Safety Committee, and this is their proposal to the council. So this would be new language. You'd keep what you currently have on the books, but then you would expand it a little bit. And then on page 39 is cell phone use policy, and that too is a new policy that went through the Safety Committee, and this is their recommendation.
And you added forms to the back of the policy. You didn't include them here, and there was no need to. Can you just tell us what kind of forms they are?
Those were for the sick bank, right?
The sick bank,
I don't have,
law form, the performance evaluation form, so that it was just accessible and available to all employees. Some employees who aren't used to being evaluated on a regular basis feel like it's a punishment. So just making it part of the policy and people know when they come on board what they'll be evaluated on. It's just good to get that expectation out there and let them know what it is. They're all really basic forms. The only ones that are really new that the employees will not have seen before are the ones for the sick bank, which was existing language in the policy, and nobody just ever created forms.
Okay. Do we have any questions from council on this?
I do. I have several questions. I found the breakdown to be very helpful with the chart telling us exactly where it was. I did spend a lot of time going through the personnel policy just to not only familiarize myself again, but just to read everything over. Under section 90-3.1, the sexual harassment one, it says the employees must bring it to the attention of the town. Now, I was wondering if that should be a little more specific, saying either the department head or the town manager, because I could see that leaving a gateway for unforeseen
Right,
things.
just to clarify it?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there a,
Page 6.
Okay.
It's about halfway down. It's the third word in from the left.
yeah, I see that. I'm just looking further on.
I did see some other points where it said town.
On
and then-
page 7, under C, it tells you who you should go to. You should inform your supervisor. I think it's stating the town as town in general. It is, so, wait a minute. Any complaints will be investigated. I think to the town, but then it defines on page 7, under C2, who you should go to, the chain of command.
Lisa, I just want to remind you guys that this policy is one that you just adopted and had to be approved by the Maine Human Rights Commission, so I really don't feel like we have not yet met all of our requirements in that agreement. I would venture, if you made any changes to this, that it would have to get approved by them as well, again.
Well, there's other things that are being changed, such as the vacation, so...
The sexual
That is a part
harassment.
of the agreement.
Oh, so you're talking about just sexual harassment?
The sexual harassment, the non-discrimination, the ADA, and the employment section of the policy.
Yeah, those were all required by the Maine Human Rights Commission.
Oh, I understand that piece, but I also want to make sure that I understand questions I have going through the policy before I vote on something.
Well, you already voted on that, it's just what I wanted to.
Oh, I understand that.
So, so what we can say is, it does say at the beginning of this section, A, generally. So that's the general description. And then each specific item is identified throughout, and on page 7, C2 defines who specifically to inform.
So, I mean, I was just pointing it out because something that flagged to me, from having a team and having to manage a large group of people, that if I was looking at, I could see a loophole being there, so I just wanted to point that out as something that I was concerned about. The next item that I was looking at was on page number 13. It has to deal with the, no, I'm sorry, not page 13. Page 16 is under 9015.3, the temporary office closure. Office closure.
Okay.
It says all regular employees shall be compensated for any temporary closure of the town office at the same rate of compensation if they had worked. Is that a normal practice?
I think what I've been used to is if the manager calls the closure and says you have to go home because of whatever, then typically it is paid. But if you have a storm day and you stay open and people don't want to come in, then they have to use another type, either vacation time or comp time if they have on the books. But if the manager is mandating it because of a storm or whatever, typically they are paid. That's how we've done it in the past in other places, and I'm sure that's why that's here.
So, that makes sense. I didn't
Right.
understand that when I was reading it. That's one
Yeah.
of the questions I had, is if that was standard, because it wouldn't seem if a town office was closed that
Right.
Or at least I know where I work. If it's a building is closed, I'm not going to get paid if I don't
Right.
go to work. But if you call it off, that's a different
Right.
story.
I just found something else that I went by on page 12. This wasn't mentioned earlier. Under probationary period, under B and C, it says the town, through the town council and/or town manager, shall have the right to terminate the employment of any newly appointed or higher employee. That should just be the town manager.
Yep.
So we
sure.
need to strike that, and the same thing under C.
Good catch, Diane.
And then, what was the other one? The other one's on page 14. We can strike the deputy in front of the code enforcement officer.
Diane, that's also in B in that same section.
In which one?
Same section, 90-6, B and
Yeah,
C.
B
both.
and C, yep. Yeah, there's two places there, B and C, that it needs to be struck. And then the deputy in front of code enforcement officer on page 14.
The other one, Diane, was 15.
Yep. And on page 15, under 90-14D, we want, now that we're at we have biweekly payrolls, I'd like to have that say all employees are required to account for their work time on weekly or biweekly time cards. Some employees use weekly time cards, and some just have a biweekly payroll, so if we, but it's not all weekly, so if we could just add or biweekly, and the work time shall be approved by their immediate supervisor and the town manager, because I'll be approving the timesheets. And then we also want to add weekly time cards shall be submitted to the payroll clerk biweekly. But they may be weekly time cards, but they need to be submitted biweekly.
So time cards in general, all the time
Yes,
cards will be
yeah,
submitted
because
biweekly.
we pay biweekly.
One of the other questions I had was on page 19 for this section E, sick leave bank. I know I'd asked you this question before, Diane. Is this a normal practice to have somewhere? I just look at it, that this was a very vague section, and I really like this section, or the line added in here, that the employees must designate by June 30th. I could see this really costing us a lot of money if it wasn't more narrow-headed, so I really like that addition. But is this normal in other municipalities?
It hasn't been in the policies that I've been dealing with in my other two positions. I haven't seen it, but I have heard of it. Typically, they're in union contracts. Has anybody ever used the sick leave bank? No, okay.
It's very difficult because of that line that you and I had discussed with the employee shall have no other income.
Yeah, it makes it difficult because a lot of employees have the income protection, so that is another form of income if they don't have sick leave on the books. So I think that's why it hasn't been used.
So what about a very seasoned employee that's been here for a long time? And say they come to you tomorrow and they want to put some of the sick leave in the bank. How far back would they be able to go? I know this says for June 30th going forward, but if I've been here for 20 years, could I come to you tomorrow and say, how would that work? Would I be able to put all kinds of time in the bank?
I don't think that was the intent of this, but that's what we want to clear up so that they can't do it. They need to
Okay.
do it by June 30th.
Right.
And there currently isn't any hours in the bank, correct?
So from this point forward, June 30th is the deadline, but since there's a bank that exists, but people haven't been putting anything in it, so does that mean that some people have sick time, like oodles and oodles of sick time that they haven't used, they're still going to be allowed to keep all that oodles that they've already saved because we didn't have this clarification before?
I think that's what I was asking. I couldn't get the
Yeah,
words out.
After the max, if they've reached their max, unless they designated in writing to the town that they wanted to donate those hours to the sick pool, they just disappear. They're just
Right.
not awarded. they're forfeited.
Right, because they can only keep so much on the books.
Okay.
It's not $960 for some and $720 if you're hired after 2000.
Yep. I just thought that
But you
wasn't,
could have somebody right now that exceeds the max and could turn it over, but I don't know that somebody would do that mid-year, because you never know what's going to happen to them. You know, they could get sick. I mean, it'd be kind of risky, but you might have someone that would do it. But typically an employee's going to wait till just before June 30th, and whatever they have over their max, they'll put it into the sick bank if they want to. But nobody's done it yet. I mean, how long's that been on the books? This policy for quite a while?
2007. Updates in 2009.
Right.
That's not to say it wasn't pre-existing, that's how long it's been codified.
I have a quick question. When we look at the section 90-22 on page 20, where we are reducing the number of years somebody would work in order to gain a week's vacation. I know we're doing it to keep it in line with our union employees, but do we have any, or do you know how many people we have who this will affect immediately by this going into effect? You know, if there's somebody who's been here 13 years, they wouldn't have received 4 weeks yet, but it's over the 12, so now they'll all of a sudden get, do you know how many employees that'll affect?
I know I looked at the 5-year level, and that was under 5 people. And one of them was recently laid off, so that changed a little bit. But I did not look out to the 12 or 18.
But even if it's affected, it'll only be in effect 1 year.
It really, when I think about it, it only is going to affect the town office because it's non-union employees. So it would virtually affect the people here at town office and sewer department. So if I were to approximate above what I did on the 5 years, I think it would be under 10, because most of the non-union employees have been here well over the 18 years and are already maxed out on their
Gotcha.
vacation accruals.
Okay.
But I can get you that. I can get you those numbers.
I think that'd be valuable, just so we know where that's going to happen.
the other question I had was under, on page 29, section 90-38, use of town equipment. It references the town employees have to receive permission from the department head prior to taking town equipment home and fill out a form. What about for department heads, if they want to take stuff home? Do they have to get permission from you, Diane, and fill out a form?
Yeah, I'm not sure which one is it? Where is it now?
Page 29, section 90-38.
90-38, town equipment. I'm not sure what that means.
When I was reading it.
I don't know if it means a vehicle or if it means a piece of machinery like an excavator or, I don't know.
I've only seen it done once, and it was some type of trimmer. And it was done by email request to the town manager with dates and pre-approval of the equipment being used.
I think that we need to add something in here for department heads, because this is very, in my opinion, lacking one section, and that needs to make sure that department heads get approval as well.
Well, you could add, receive permission from the head of department. How do I want to say it? Either
Or the town manager.
approval from the head of department and permission from the town manager, so that the town manager is involved in every one of those decisions. We can fix that so that the department head is authorizing it, is authorized by the town manager, approved by the department head.
I you left it, town employees must receive permission from the department head or town manager, that would cover both. So it's saying any employee has to receive the appropriate approval from either the department head or you.
But if you put "or," that means they can get it either or. And they
Right.
would
Yes.
always go to the department head. It probably would never come to me.
Right, we don't want the department head to authorize themselves to take.
On that
What?
permission form that is sent out, that they have to fill out, is there something in there protecting the town? Should any of this equipment be damaged, or, I mean,
Well, I know, that's why I'm,
pays for
I
that? if
know,
something
I
should-
know. I think,
Maybe we just strike the whole thing.
I mean,
but still, something could damage the equipment. I'm not sure that this is a good practice.
What if we just struck
Allow
the,
sound like it's a
authorization
good
of the
thing.
town manager required, make it not an and or, but an and, so that town
That's
manager has to sign off,
right.
and then just don't sign off on anything until we have a more real policy in place.
Exactly.
technically, this is equipment that is paid from taxpayers that someone's just using. I don't know if it's right to...
or just strike it all?
Well,
I'd-
I've never seen this in a policy. I mean, this isn't typical
Yeah.
of municipal government, allowing equipment to go home, because you're right.
I
You
have
bring
to
up a
agree with
good
Dylan.
point.
I'd say strike it completely.
Yeah.
This is a very sticky situation.
Because if the equipment was malfunctioning and the person took it home and was injured by it,
I know.
or vice versa, they take it home and break it.
Let's consider striking
I'd say
it, I
strike
think.
it
And also, maybe we can look at where or why, when or why this was put in there, and just so that we cover ourselves in case there was actually a perfectly good reason to put it in there and it's just too vague. So maybe we can, let's consider striking it, but let's find out why it was put in there at the same time.
Okay.
I think we can probably just look at when it was added in the first time. I think we'll probably end up striking it, but
Yeah.
let's just
Yeah, it
cover all
seems
the
more like
bases.
The old way they used to do things, where the employees
Yeah,
just take
that's
this
what I'm
stuff home and
thinking.
use their work.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not really
Yeah.
appropriate for the way we should be operating.
One of your biggest problems is liability.
Yep.
Something happens with that equipment and harms someone else outside.
I'd rather see it get struck now, and if there's a reason for it to be
Well,
there,
add
we
it
can add
back.
it back.
Yeah.
Add a prohibition against it at all, that
I think it
employees
should
shouldn't
be
not be taking equipment home,
Yeah.
period.
Right.
Are we going to,
We don't have a vote on this, do
we
we?
don't have to vote on this. We
No.
can.
No,
I
we'll bring
think
it up to
let's-
the next
yeah,
council meeting to
let's-
vote on.
Yep.
I'm going to say, I think we're pretty much in agreement that it sounds like something that needs to be removed. But if we could just make sure that we find out why it was put in there in the first place, that we can make sure that we've covered all the angles.
Go back and see what we can find out on
Yeah.
it.
I think those are all the questions I had. Does anyone else have any? I'm all back in order. All right. Do we have any additional questions, or do we need any more information from the manager before we adjourn the workshop?
I'm good.
Is there anybody on council who feels that we have a need to have questions from the public?
I would, just to keep it consistent.
Okay. I'll entertain questions from the public, if there's anyone who'd like to have any questions answered about the workshop.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Debbie Berry, Lisbon Falls. Regarding the issue of the sick leave bank, there was a situation I didn't quite understand, that they're allowed to deposit that or be paid for it, and the way it works for me is that I just accrue it or I lose it when I get done. So I'm not quite sure how that policy is. Is it a case they bank it and get paid for it, or just that's
Well,
the issue? So,
What they
thank you.
do is they bank it, and if there's somebody, an employee, that has run out of sick leave and is out and not working and doesn't have any means of getting paid, then they can access that sick leave bank. But they have to not be able to have any other income. If they've got some other type of income, like income protection, they will not be able to access it.
Like even Social Security, if they get Social Security disability.
Right, no other income. I don't know that we would know that they've got Social Security disability, but at least internally, any other type of income, like vacation time and,
I think they have a cross-check, like once they file and make an
Yeah.
application, then they start getting paid, then Social Security comes in and looks at it and says, oh, you get paid, and then they'll bounce them.
okay.
They gotta be very careful about that.
Any other questions?
Dorothy Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. You're talking about policy taking equipment home. Is that just computer equipment, or does that include vehicles as well?
It has to do with every
By
kind.
anything. It just says
Huh?
it doesn't specify, it just says
It
equipment.
just says equipment, It doesn't define it.
Could be any piece of property at all.
But it looks like we're going to strike that, so that whole language, it's not going to be in the policy any longer.
Okay, so employees won't be taking town equipment home or vehicles?
It doesn't talk about, vehicles is something separate,
Oh, it is.
yeah.
So how is that addressed at all? Or is it at all?
I know I had our previous interim manager look into that, and he couldn't find any town around that had a good policy on,
Well, maybe it's,
so we need to look further and see if we can find the
Yeah.
other states, even if we have to look to find something that has a good policy.
maybe it's, I think it's time to address that. Thank you.
Mark, I've sent a question out on the listserv, and I've gotten some feedback this week, so I've started to develop a policy. I'm taking bits and pieces from other communities to see what would fit for us.
It's kind of unfair to
So that's
everyone,
gonna be
both the
coming
public
back
and
to
the
you later.
employees, to have no guidance on
Yeah.
what's appropriate.
If you're allowing it, then there needs to be something in place for guidelines.
This has been a question that
Yeah.
we've needed to answer for a while.
For sure.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think it'd be for an hour show, Lisbon Falls. I think I agree with your original thought, Lisa, was the idea of looking into it to see what actually came out of that, why it was put in. And we have firefighters, first responders that do actually carry their equipment with them, if they actually are, so to speak, leaders, or actually they go direct to the scene. We actually have police officers that take their equipment home to respond. And if you don't limit the equipment, I mean, you're really limiting it to nothing. So whether that's equipment that they need to be able to respond out. So I guess I'd just be careful about the idea of having nothing in a policy. I think I'd look into it to see what actually it does detail before I strike it.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good question for the department heads.
It
Are
is,
you
and I
using this
think
currently?
in those situations, they're assigned equipment. So if we can maybe develop something around that to cover that. Because typically that isn't something you're going to get permission from. If you're assigned your turnout gear and whatever, and
It's just, you gotta be
yeah,
careful defining.
I know, I know.
Absolutely not. I mean, that's just, we looked at it in different ways, that's all.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, we don't have any other questions? I'll entertain motion to adjourn the workshop.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0. 6-0.
Do we need to take a break in between, or does council want to move right into the meeting?
Whatever you want.
I'm good with moving forward. If I think we can move forward, okay. We've already had the call to order and pledge to the flag and the roll call, so the next item, please, Twyla.
Good news and recognition, Bill Van Tynen, commendation for excellent service.
Thank you.
Bill's here tonight.
Oh, good.
He's in
Bill
the
is
back
here.
row.
Hi, Bill. Would you please stand, Bill? Why don't you just come right up front? I'll go down there. You stand near the microphone so people can hear us. We had this. We put this letter together for you, Mr. Van Tynen. Dear Mr. Van Tynen, on behalf of the council, I'd like to thank you for your excellent service carrying out the responsibilities of the tax assessor, Lisbon, since 2010. We would like to commend the professionalism of you and your staff. The knowledge and guidance provided by you and your firm have assisted the town of Lisbon through a transitional time in the tax assessor's office. The services you have provided to the town of Lisbon are definitely an asset to our community, and we look forward to continuing our working relationship with you on the reevaluation. Thank you for your hard work and dedication. And the counselors have all signed this letter for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If I could
Add one thing, we will be sending a letter to the state tax assessor's office for your files as well, because we truly do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You've trusted me with a lot of responsibility, had confidence in my work. I appreciate the opportunity that you gave me to work for the town. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item, please, Twyla.
Is under the public hearings, an amendment, these are amendments to the general assistance ordinance and appendices.
Okay. I'll open this public hearing for the general assistance ordinance and appendices. Do we have anyone who would like to speak? And Mrs. Berry? And just so that everybody knows, this is not something we put together. This is required by the state.
Very good. Debbie Berry, Lisbon Falls, Maine. I read the addendums and appendices. Thank you, Twyla, so much for straightening me out on that. So I have a couple issues with that. I don't know if we've gone into detail, because I'm assuming you're going to be voting tonight on the second reading. And I did have a couple issues, because when it refers to the GA maximum allowances, they appear to use a CPI index that I don't know if it's actually in real time, because if you go buy a loaf of bread nowadays, it's $3. It's not $1 anymore. And when I went to the actual federal site, when I go on even under the Thrifty Food Plan, there's 4 plans. And I have a concern that it does appear that you have a right to look at that a little bit further to make sure that, although the maximums are set at the minimum level of food that people can actually have, that it may in fact, I don't know, I think we might be able to do, just make sure that within our local area that it's commensurate with the food cost available here. The other part, too, is on the Appendix D under utilities, that they refer to a demonstrate need. They didn't actually have the application there. I'll probably get Ms. Hardy on that. She'll probably be able to explain that to me a little bit better. And the other issue I had with the form was the rent issue. And that, again, may not be in keeping with the increases that we've had in rents. And they're allowables. They call them maximums, but allowables. And it appears that you can ask for a study on that. And I don't know if that's something that can be provided from the state, because you said it's a state-driven thing. But when I went to their site, it appears that most of this stuff is from 2013 that they're using for information. And usually your rents go up like every year or whatever. So it may not be in keeping, if you're a poor person, a $30 increase could mean a difference between, having a comfortable home or not. The other question I had, too, and this is kind of interesting, maybe I might address this to the state as well, is under burial maximums. I had a question for that, because it seems like they're doing a price fixing for what can be charged by the poor, well, not poor, but I mean the cemetery accounts themselves, let's say Crossman's Funeral, if you will, that they cannot exceed a $50 for a cremation urn, and that's kind of a price fixing thing, because his costs are probably more than $50. It's probably closer to $100 once everything's said and done, the ordering, the receiving, the checking, to make sure that it's not broke. I'm concerned with that. I don't know. So it does need to be approved, but I think maybe in the future we'll need to look at that and really dig into it to make sure that we have done the best we can for our town people that do need this help. That we may not be, if it's 2013 numbers that they're using, which it appears not in all cases, but there was enough there that made me concerned. And the Thrifty Food Plan, there's 4 plans that they use a CPI, that they don't use every factor, and that's concerning to me as well. So I understand you'll probably be voting on that, and it'll probably go through, but if we could make a note that we need to, help with the town, who's it, Ms. Hardy, if you will, I think she handles it, that she may need to make sure that if we are able to get a study for her, that we can get that study for her to make sure our local people are serviced in accordance with the prices that are being charged in our towns. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Fitzgerald again. I'm glad Debbie brought that up. I own a multifamily, and I don't usually do Section 8, but I have a lady that is on Section 8 and wants to rent one of my apartments. My rental is below the market, but she has to go through Lewiston Housing Authority for her Section 8 qualifications. And evidently, she's telling me that the various towns, and I should have looked into this, can set their own maximums, minimums, or whatever. And Lewiston usually has lower rents than, I would say, Lisbon. And so I'm just concerned that this really needs to be looked into. My rents are nice, and I think I should be able to get a little bit more from Section 8 than they're allowing. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, or anything else?
Do you have anybody that can look into that stuff?
I think usually our general assistance office makes sure that they go through it and make sure that the numbers are in line with Lisbon, as opposed to being other towns in the county.
I believe
But we
the
can
state
check with that.
sets those, and we have no control over that. Is
I
that
thought they
correct,
did,
Jody?
but I think we can check that.
I believe in order for the town to receive state reimbursement, we have to follow the guidelines that are set.
Which are given to us by the state.
I think I asked that same question last year.
I think so, yeah.
But they may, I don't know if they've updated those figures for this year. Typically, they do it in the fall. Is
This is the
so
September
the
13th.
so the minimums and maximums have been updated as well? That's not going to take place in another month? I know, okay.
Well, these ones expire September 30th of 14, and we'll have to just the appendices if they change the limits
Right.
again at that date. We'll
Right,
have
so
to-
there may be another update coming within the next few months to those.
Right.
This particular lady has called various towns. She has lived in South Portland, and they have different guidelines. So evidently, it is not state guidelines. It is, she's been told by the state that, and various towns, that each town can set their own limits. And our taxes going up, and I've been told that by various counselors or whatever that, well, when the taxes go up, I can just raise my rents. Well, if it's Section 8, and I'm sure there are a lot of landlords here in town that have Section 8 tenants, you just can't go up on your rent. That's one of the big reasons for trying to control our real estate taxes. You just can't go up on your rents because all of the tenants can't afford more. Thank you.
To answer Dot's question, the state sets the maximums by county. So Portland is going to have a higher maximum than we'll have here in Androscoggin County. That is true. But that is all outlined here in the ordinance.
I think there are plenty of Section 8 recipients who would like to receive more money for their places to live, so they could live in, I've seen what Section 8 apartments look like, and I'm thankful that I don't live in one. So I sympathize both sides. Do we have any other comments, questions?
Actually, what they're talking about is covered under Appendix C, where it specifically says not all municipalities should adopt these maximums without doing a market survey. But a market survey has to be done before we accept this. If we accept this, we're done for this year. We can do a market survey all we want, but once we accept this, it's locked in stone until next year.
What's the time limit on accepting it? If we don't accept it, we can't get any general assistance help from the state.
That's a whole...
So it's a catch-22.
Yeah, that's exactly.
If we think we want to do a study, then we need to accept this so that we can continue to receive funding, and then ask for a study for the upcoming year so that we can stop that cycle. Does that make sense? No.
Is a study for something like this really entailed?
I've never been involved in one. We've always, the towns I worked in, we always adopted whatever the state set forth. So I don't know. I don't know.
It might be worth looking into at least getting a price quote on seeing what it would cost. if
And
it's-
let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's ask the folks at General Assistance and
Yeah.
make sure that they haven't already covered
Find out
that.
exactly what we
Right.
have to, how that study is.
Right.
It won't kill us if we wait until the next council meeting to vote on this?
No, but I don't think, it's so
Just
that
to
we can
find
get
out
it,
if-
just to
yeah,
find
see
out,
if we
okay.
could.
I think we
Yep.
could amend the appendices. I mean, I understand that's what Jody was saying. We're going to have to amend them anyway in September, so
Hi.
to come up with new
If a
data.
client comes in for general assistance, Judy is going to follow these guidelines. She has been following them for the entire time. She works for the town, and she goes to the site and goes to the most recent approved by the state, and that's what she uses to qualify a client for assistance.
And she's been doing this a long time and does it for more than one town. She's very good at it.
Twyla's telling me that the second reading has to be so many days after the first reading.
Yeah, you have to start with something.
So it would mean, if you delay it, it would just mean starting with the first reading again, and do a public hearing and a second reading.
We should put it off basically another month.
I don't see why we couldn't adopt the version that exists now, and then if we do a study, if we find that's financially feasible, then we could do that, and then we can, change it, especially if we're going to have to do it again in the fall anyway.
And I don't know what the study would entail if you just look back at the last census. I mean, I don't know how you would do it without going door to door and getting people's income levels. I mean, I don't know if it's like doing one of those low to moderate income surveys.
Yeah, maybe too expensive for us to do here at this level.
That would be the other option.
We have the
Is it
money to
going
do
to cost
that, we
us?
Yeah.
don't. A lot of money to do it.
So let's find out what that would entail. Let's check with Judy. She may have the short answer for us.
My suggestion would be to pass it as is, and if that's something you truly want to look at, because you've been doing it this way for forever, that we make that a priority during the year and come back next year. And I don't know if we did that, I don't think that we're required to give the information to the state, because what we don't want to do, if we find out we were over income, that they lower the maximums, you know what I mean? So I don't know if it would affect that in any way, and I don't know what the state looks at to determine those. That would be interesting to find out how the state determines the maximums, what they look at, because they must look at something. But they could look at people's income tax returns, I don't know. But we're never going to get that information.
I did talk to Judy before the meeting based on your suggestion, and she was happy that this was before you and that it was getting all updated, because there were a couple things when she was out on family leave that were missed. So it's much cleaner for her for the most recent standards to be adopted.
Okay, so passing this now, this is what I'm hearing, is passing the version we have will help us keep the general assistance and from the state, and also give us the opportunity to do a study or find out if we need to do one. Let's
Right.
find out if we need it, if it's something that would be viable for us.
We can report back at the next meeting on what we
Okay.
find out, too.
That would be good.
A reduction in assistance for rent since the state changed the law to a 9-month maximum.
But if you're going to come back with information on a study, would it be, since this isn't pressing, would it be beneficial to wait for that in case it's a study that is $1,000 and it takes 2 weeks? We don't really know what the study entails.
I don't think it would, because then it would have to go to the state, and they would have to approve it. And I don't know that they would
That's
approve it
assuming
now,
something
or
the
if
state
it
would
would,
not authorize.
it would take, because they've already set the, I don't know. I don't think you can get it done that fast. but-
Effectively, you're disputing the state's numbers, and they're going to be, a little ornery about that, as they usually are. so-
Right, because they're not just going to take what we say and then allow us to change it, then
Right.
I would think that they would have to make us prove, and I don't know how we would do that without
Let's ask
getting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without doing a low to moderate income survey, maybe, and I don't think we'd ever qualify for that, because,
Is the public hearing, is a public hearing class on, or is that?
Yes, I have not closed it yet.
From what I understand and what I remember, Fern La Rochelle Lisbon Falls, is the state sets their maximum rating, say it's $600 a month. I don't know what it is, say it is. And your survey is basically going to see if Lisbon wants to be less than that. It is not going to be see if it's going to pay more. The state is going to pay they gave you their total limit of what they're going to allow. And if you want to do a survey and say we're only going to allow 600 in Lisbon, it's to bring it down, not to bring it up. So again, I'm not sure if that is the complete understanding of it, but I believe that's kind of what that survey would be. So the idea to do a survey and actually raise the state limit in Androscoggin County, that's not what that survey would do, I don't believe.
The more we talk about it, the more I remember talking about it last year and realizing exactly that the state's not going to change how much we have. We could change it. We could put it at an $800 minimum, and we'd pay the difference. The state would still only pay $600. We could put an $800 minimum, but the town of Lisbon would pay that difference.
That's a good point.
So, but let's check those facts with Judy and make sure we have everything straight.
yeah, because what Dot wants is, she wants it to be raised, is that correct?
I what?
You would want the maximum to be raised, that's what I'm hearing, right?
Well, she's not coming to the town for any assistance. She,
No, but your point is that you don't think the maximum is high enough, right?
right,
Okay.
right. She has checked out Lewiston and Auburn.
Yeah.
And they have different maximums, so it would appear that the state isn't setting it. She's been told that each town, each city...
No, that's not the way
No.
it goes, no.
But some of those bigger cities, maybe
find
the
out.
ones that they conduct their own survey in order to say, it's lower, so they don't have to pay as much.
But they
Yeah, if you could
also
look into
have
it.
their
Check the state and see if
Towns
they
like-
would
This
ever
says you
increase it.
present it to DHHS.
towns like
know if they're-
Lewiston and Portland have their own
Fern's right, they're not
their
gonna
own
pay us
city
They're not going to pay us more than...
housing
yeah.
authorities, not just, see, we would be using Maine State Housing Authority in Lisbon, but Lewiston has Lewiston Housing Authority, and Portland has theirs, and so they have more than one authority on.
What she's doing is calling the housing authorities.
Right, they're not all Maine State housing, so,
Well, their instructional memo doesn't seem to
okay.
exist.
So let's clear up those questions. I think Judy could probably answer most of them for us immediately, and maybe find out if there's a reason to move forward with maybe doing a study, or maybe we'll find out that we don't need to, or we shouldn't.
Right.
Okay, so let's find out the answer to that. Okay, if we have no further input, I'll close the hearing. Okay, the hearing's closed. Next item, please, Twyla.
Audience participation for agenda items.
Do we have anyone who'd like to speak on agenda items?
I feel like a jack-in-the-box. It's after the fact, but I'm just wondering if the revaluation has been completed. It
Not yet,
hasn't?
no.
Okay, when will it be completed?
I believe sometime during this year, and the values will take place for the next commitment.
Thank you.
Yes, Debbie Berry, Lisbon Falls, Maine. My question was agenda item number 2014-151, authorize town manager to sign interlocal agreement for code enforcement officer. Had a couple issues with that, was specifically item number 13 of that agreement had to do with resolving legal disputes. And basically, we, the town, will take over code enforcement activities for the town of Sabato, so we'll be commingling those functions with our town being responsible. And the way the wording was is that I don't know if it's strong enough to actually cover that if there is a dispute regarding if my permit didn't get approved, or my waiver didn't get approved, or my easements here, my things here from Sabatis, that they've got to come to Lisbon and get it resolved with their people coming over the town line as well. And if we have issues, that it's easier for us. So, and I also have a problem with our town sovereignty, is that if we commingle our personnel assets, I guess, is not such an issue, but the responsibility regarding the duties of the code enforcement officer, and that's I don't know if I'm not comfortable going in that path, and with the wording that is given is that where people will sue if their permit doesn't get approved or their waiver doesn't get done. I'm thinking of Cedar Beach. I think it was in Scarborough. I know that's a different town, but again, they try to make a private property owner do something because the municipality said do something, and the Sabatis may not like when Lisbon's code enforcement officer says you have to do this because this is the way we do our practices. I have an issue with item number 13. I don't know if it needs to just be reworded, because it appears that our sovereignty and Sabatis town folks' sovereignty could be at issue at some point in a dispute regarding easements and waivers and things like that. And I think it was on page number 2, item 13. It calls dispute resolution. All right, thank you.
Oh, sorry, guys. Anyone else? All right. Next item, please, Twyla.
Audience participation response.
I think Dot got her answer. To address Mrs. Berry's question about item 13 and code enforcement, we've had this agreement with Sabatis for a year already. It seems to be working out very well for both towns. The folks from Sabatis don't come to Lisbon for anything. Our code enforcement officer has his hours in Sabatis, and he goes there, and he is there for them at those hours, and he's here for us during his hours, and there's no interaction between Lisbon and Sabatis other than the fact that we have a business agreement, so that we can use the same human being as our code enforcement officer. So I'm not really seeing where the town sovereignty comes into play. And I think we did have legal take a look at this before we initially put together the agreement with Sabatis, and it seems to have been working out well. So I think if you wanted to put your questions into an email to the town manager to specifically address them, I just know that it has worked out extremely well, as far as I know. We're fortunate to have an extremely good code enforcement officer, and Sabatis is fortunate that we're able to share him with them. And he seems to go above and beyond, and we have had no issues to this point. No questions or disputes or anything. So, and I think that was it. Did I miss anything? No? Okay. Next item, please, Twyla.
Is the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. Order 2014-144, to approve the minutes of July 15, July 22, and set the polling hours, registrar hours, polling locations, and casting of absentee ballots for the November 4th, 2014 election as follows, including changes due to the new office hours. Polling hours from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The polling locations: Water District 1 at the Superintendent's Central Office Building Gymnasium, Water District 2 at the MTM Community Center Gymnasium. The registrar hours will be October 27, 28, 29, and 30, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and November the 3rd on a Monday during the regular office hours, and on Election Day, November 4th, during the polling hours. And casting absentee ballots will happen on Election Day at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 p.m.
So there's no changes other than to reflect the fact that the town office is closed on Friday?
Right.
In the middle of that time? Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
We can just, we don't need a roll call.
Nope.
No.
Regular
All those
vote.
in favor?
Order passed, 6-0. And Madam Chairman, I'd just like to point out that the nomination papers will be available on Wednesday next week, August 13, at 7:30 a.m., and they need to be filed in the town clerk's office on or before 6 p.m. on September the 22nd. And those would be the papers for the elected vacancies and the positions that are vacant or are up for re-election. For Town Council would be Lisa Ward at large, for School Committee, Marcy Crossgill, and for Water Commission, Kenneth Wells.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the next item, please.
Is under Council Orders, Ordinances, and Resolutions. Order 2014-145, requests to go to RFP for paving, sewer upgrade, copier replacement, culvert replacement, work at the Public Works Garage, legal and audit services.
I'll start that off,
Yes.
and then maybe Ryan can help out. Under the Public Works Garage repair work, at the last meeting, you authorized me to negotiate with Hebert in an amount not to exceed $292,000 to be the general contractor on that job. With Ryan and Dennis, they've done an awful lot of work on this project, some excellent work, and they feel, and I also feel, that we can negotiate a better price if we put these certain items out to RFP or out to bid, and we be the general contractor instead. I think we can save a lot of money. There's some things that we've done already that we've saved a significant amount, and had we gone with the construction company, we would have paid a lot more money. So some of these items, and we've got a time constraint here, as you know. Some of these items may exceed the $10,000, but what we would like to do is have permission from council, again, to authorize me to negotiate the best price with these different contractors for their specialty, not to exceed $292,000 on that one item only. All of the others, if it's over the $10,000 per our purchasing policy, we'll come back and have you award the bid. Some of them will be, some of them may not. If it's within my jurisdiction to award the RFP because of the purchasing policy, I will do that. Some of them, they will have to come back to you. But this one, under the Public Works Garage, I would like to have permission to do it, but because if we have to come back to you every time we open a bid, then we have to wait for a council meeting, and the job's never going to get done. It's going to drag on. Do you want to say anything, Ryan?
I'm all for that, she knows that.
I have no problem with it.
I have no problem with it at all.
So that motion there for that one, I would like it to be separate from the rest. And then the rest, just permission to go out for RFP or bid. And then we'll come back to you with the results on those items that we need to, per the policy. So right now, all we need to do is just have permission to go out for RFP on everything, with the exception of the Public Works Garage. I would like authorization for the town manager to negotiate the best price not to exceed $292,000.
You want to do that one first?
Yeah, if you could do that one first, and then the rest can be all done the same.
So we'll entertain a motion to allow the town manager to proceed with the RFPs for the work that needs to be completed for the Public Works garage. Do we have a motion?
I'll make
Or
that
authorize me to negotiate the
Negotiate,
best
yes.
price. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Not to exceed $292.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
And we'll group the remainder of items, the server upgrades, the paving, computer upgrades, copier replacement, culvert lining, winter sand, legal services, and a draft RFP for audit services. We'll entertain a motion to allow the town manager to, how are we saying this?
To go out for bid and RFP.
Right, to go
Do
out.
both,
do
because-
both.
right, yeah.
Right, okay, let's do that.
I'll make the motion. Let the town manager go for RFP on those items.
I'll second it.
I just have a couple questions, if that's okay.
Yeah, now's the right time.
Regarding the proposed paving plan, maybe it's for Ryan or Diane, I really like the breakdown you have here, but I was a little confused. The first section for Highland Ave, Winter, and Wing, and then you have a different section with several other roads. Will all these roads be worked on, or is it just the top three?
Based on our paving budget of $160,000, we'll never make it through the entire list, but the top three were critical because we shimmed those in 2012 with the intention of going back last summer and overlaying them. We had no paving money last year to do that, so we've got to go back and overlay those this year, and then we'd move on to that list in order, starting from Russell Street down.
When I did my math, I didn't get 160.
Well,
but-
that's why I did the running total on the right-hand side. You'll see we'll be able to make it down, hopefully, to Maple Street on that list, if all goes well. But these are all estimates and subject to change.
I bet you would have. I didn't know if I was missing something,
No.
but thank you. My other question I had was regarding the legal services. I didn't know if I missed something looking through the packet for the RFP for the legal service, but when the legal service RFP goes out, when it comes back, everybody's going to be submitting for the same thing. So if you, say, wanted to negotiate something in that, we would need to put that part of the RFP, correct?
Right.
One of the things that, when I was talking to the interim town manager before, is in Freeport, they had an agreement where there was 2 sessions a year that the attorney would come in and do like a training for the employees or the council at free of charge. And I thought that might be something might be beneficial to the town, since we always need training, because none of us are experts. I wasn't sure if that would be possible.
So we could put that in to ask them to provide 2 sessions a year for council and employee training. Yep. I
Or-
can put it in and see if they'll
Yeah.
do it. You want that as part of the RFP itself?
That's what I would like.
I
but-
don't think that's a bad idea, because we ask for it anyway. So it would, I think it would be beneficial to make sure that it's in there.
Okay. Yep. We can add that.
And the audit services is just a draft because of the school.
Correct.
Okay. Any other discussion from council? So we'll look for a motion to,
You have a motion?
we do have a
Already have a
motion.
Can you have a second?
All right. See how short my memory is these days. All right, all those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
Thank you. Next item, please, Twyla.
Order 2014-146, the General Assistance Ordinance. This is the second reading. A roll call vote is required here.
Okay. Okay, so we've already discussed that, the idea that we're going to get those answers, those questions answered. Do we have a motion from council to accept the second reading of the General Assistance Ordinance?
I'll make that motion.
And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Are you ready for a roll call vote? Okay, Council Lunt?
Yes.
Councilor Brunel is absent. Councilor McTevier?
Yes.
Councilor Pesky?
Yes.
Councilor Ward?
Yes.
Councilor Bickford?
Yes.
And Councilor Garrison?
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, order passed.
The next item, please.
Order 2014-147, the General Assistance Appendices. Those appendices A, B, C, D, E, F, and H.
Do we have a motion to accept all of the general assistance appendices?
I'll make that motion.
And a second? Councilor
Okay,
Mattimer?
ready for a roll call vote?
Yes, please.
All right. Councilor Garrison?
Yes.
Councilor Bickford?
Yes.
Councilor Ward?
Yes.
Councilor Pesky?
Yes.
Councilor Mattivier?
Yes.
And Councilor Lunt?
Yes.
6 yeas, 0 nays, order passed. We'll circulate those for signatures.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll put it on our next agenda for a report on those questions we had. Okay. All right, the next item, please, Twyla.
Order 2014-148, the Certificate of Settlement.
Okay.
The tax collector, by statute, is entitled to a discharge of his or her liability only when the collector has settled in full all of the taxes lawfully assessed and committed to him or her. So, and what happens is a settlement by the collector normally means an accounting in full by the collector for all the taxes legally committed, and that's exactly what you have in front of you is an accounting of the taxes that were committed to Jessica, and now that I'm the tax collector, we have to do the certificate of settlement on her. And then followed by that, any balances that you see on these sheets for these tax years are going to be recommitted to me as the new tax collector. So it's a twofold. So some of these years, you'll see that nothing is, the settlement is done, there's nothing more to be collected, and then on a few of these years, you're going to notice that there's outstanding balances for the new collector to collect. So the motion would be to settle the taxes on Jessica and recommit them to me.
Not
Any
losing
any outstanding balances to me.
Right, we're not
yes.
losing anything, we're just transferring the duties.
Transferring the duties,
Okay.
yes.
Do we have a motion to accept the certificates of settlement?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
Second?
We don't need roll call for this, right? Okay. All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0. And there are settlements for you to sign. We'll pass those around.
Yeah, there is.
Lots of money.
Lots there.
No. But that's okay.
I think the, actually, she's got the certificate of commitment in here with a grand total.
All right, Order 2014-149 is the Certificate of Recommitment.
Just to do it after.
Go ahead and start, and then we'll be half done. Okay, so we're looking for a motion to accept the certificate of recommitment to recommit the taxes to the new tax
To me,
collector.
in the amount of $372,671.77.
Yeah, get to work, Diane. That's right. We have a motion.
Make that motion.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0. There's a form for you to sign as well.
Should have brought a stamp.
I'm going to need a rubber stamp today. Okay, and the next item, please, Twyla.
Order 2014-150, this is MMA's annual election for vice president and executive committee members. It's a ballot.
We have, we can only vote for one vice president. There's only one person proposed.
Stephen Bunker, a selectman, Town of Farmington.
Okay. I forget how we do this, Twyla.
There are three that you can, vote for three for directors for the executive committee. And they are proposing Cynthia Mainhart, counselor, Town of Warno, Lori Smith, town manager, Town of Kennebunkport, Patricia Sutherland, the chair of select board, Town of Chapman.
Can we
cast your
So,
vote?
yeah, I was going to say, so we vote for three, and there's only three names, so it's pretty straightforward.
And we vote for everything all at once?
Yeah, you can if you have no changes.
Okay. Do we have any changes? Okay. So we'll look for a motion to accept
I'll make that a motion to accept.
all of these.
But yeah, they don't do write-ins, so yeah.
All right.
Second?
Okay. And all those in favor?
Order passed 6-0. A ballot will cast with those slate of officers presented. And it will require your signature. I'll pass the form around. Order 2014-151 to authorize the town manager to sign the interlocal agreement for code enforcement officer.
And this is allowing the town manager to sign the agreement so that it, when it's finished, we can get that done. Do you have anything to add, Diane?
No,
Okay.
I don't have any issues with it.
Okay.
And as you saw in the packet, we got a nice letter from the town of Sabattis.
Yep.
And we know that Dennis has done a good job for us, so I don't see any
He's
reason
done a
not to.
good job for them, too.
Yeah.
How many days does he go to Sabattis? One?
Day a week.
So 1 day a week, he basically is contracted out and working for them.
And he works the same 4-day
Yeah.
week that everybody else does
That's
here.
what I thought. Just want to make sure.
Okay. So do we have a motion to accept Order 2014-151?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
All right. And the next item, please, Twyla.
Is under other business, charter amendment discussion.
Okay, Diane, do you want to start this?
Yeah, that's if you recall at the last meeting, Roger Bickford wanted us to look at some different language for borrowing for major appropriations. And I really couldn't find anything, so I consulted with legal, and they came back with this addition to our under borrowing for major appropriations, a referendum to ratify action by the town council to approve the issuance of any general obligation or revenue obligation bond in a principal amount that exceeds $1 million must be held on the first Tuesday following the first Monday in November. So that would restrict you from putting this on any other type of general election. Anything from $1 million and more would have to only occur on a November election.
Okay. I know there has, in the past, been discussion on the pros and cons, and I know that we have plenty of experienced people here. I'd be willing to open the discussion, not only with council, but if council wants to accept input from anyone in the audience.
I get something to say since
Okay.
I started.
Thank you.
The way I look at it, talking with Diane, we figured it out that most bonds, let's say if it's a water department bond or whatever, and if they needed to go in June, it's up to $1 million. It'd be $999,900, could go to June. We could issue it. And most bonds don't really exceed that. The bigger bonds would go from $1 million up, would go to the November election. And the way I look at it, I was elected in November, the governor's elected in November, the president's elected in November, and I think the bigger bonds that really influence the town for as long a period as they do should be done at that time. And basically, when it goes, it's an ordinance change, so the people will decide anyways.
Right.
Yeah, because it's changed to the
Charter.
charter, right?
Right.
So that would have to go to a vote of the
Right.
public in November, so people would have a choice if they liked it or not.
I think there are pros and cons. I think maybe we should take a look at those and make sure we've covered all the bases on that. I know our legal counsel is here. Roger, would you have anything to recommend or any comment, or, okay,
Where are you in the process at this point?
first discussion?
Has anything been drafted, or?
Yeah, there's basically a one-line change here. You can take a look at it, Roger. I don't know.
I heard what you said, so if that's the only change.
Yep.
Simply in terms of the timing, if you're going to go out for the November election, then you will have to act on this sometime early in September. The reason for that is that ballots have to be prepared, absentee ballots and that sort of thing. So that's kind of your time frame.
Okay, thank you.
Other than that, do you see any cons to this at all?
I don't know if that's the right number, but that's why you guys get the big bucks, is to figure that out. Certainly, I can understand the desire to have the bigger numbers voted on at an election where you're going to have the biggest turnout.
Right.
Certainly makes some sense.
I agree with Roger. 100%. There's a lot of money being put out there. I think the majority of the people should be voting on it.
People will decide anyways if this goes through or
We'll
not,
decide
so.
anyway, so.
We never decided anyways.
The only question I had throughout the whole thing was the $1 million and how we come to that point, but it sounds like you guys had talked it.
Matter of fact, we were talking when she got the phone call, and just, I was kind of looking, it's not just, as I per se, it's a town that might need to borrow or go to bond, or it could be, it's more like what I was talking about, an emergency. But we hardly ever go for over $1 million.
Right, but if somebody needs to buy a truck, or I'll fix a water main,
Right,
or you know,
right.
some
Then
school
that's what
buses
I-
got destroyed, and you need to buy some new ones, and,
right.
you know, you could do it in June then if you
Right.
had to for $1 million, you know, gives you a reasonable threshold that you can still bond stuff under that.
But most of our road repairs, everything else is, they're not even close to that.
Right, and we would usually do that in November anyway.
Yeah, right, so, I can't see really. Here's one.
I mean, I think we should make sure to ask the department heads and the school and the water department, make sure they don't feel blindsided by it, that we want to know if there's any input they have.
I can ask the water department.
Yeah, and, you know, someone should ask the school department, make
Can
sure
we-
they know.
Can we put a general email out to those department heads?
Yeah.
See if we can get input
I
from them.
don't know, maybe Roger can ask if there's a way we could put in an emergency situation, because I'm thinking that if,
Exactly what I was going to suggest.
but I don't know how you would define emergency, though.
I've seen them, it can be done.
Okay.
If there's language out there, yeah, we should take a look.
Yeah, that'd be the one thing.
Yeah.
I'm negotiable on it.
Maybe just add that in an emergency situation that we can,
Do it for more. Let's say if something burns down really bad.
that's what I'm
School burns
thinking,
down
if
or
there's a
something.
big
Right,
fire and a
right.
building burns down.
All right.
Right.
If you add the emergency piece in, that would come back, so we could see that before we
Oh,
before we
yeah,
do a vote.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
That was a question I had in the beginning, and
We'll do emergency here.
I talked to Roger about that emergency piece.
Yep.
You, does this have to go to public hearing?
Yes.
It does?
Yes,
Okay.
to change the
That's
charter.
that timeline,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll entertain input from the audience.
Friend La Rochelle, Listen Falls. I guess the question would be is, in our charter, we actually do have an avenue for people to have a special town meeting, and the number for that isn't really large, but it's actually been adjusted a little bit. Now, at that special town meeting, that actually could be voted upon too, I believe, right? And that would override some of these issues as far as when it goes to bond, because again, that's the question I have, because so emergency situations, if it's devastated, it actually, someone could get together enough signatures to bring it to a special town meeting, and at that town meeting, even if there's only 400 people there or 500 people, that still could be voted in. Wouldn't that override any need to go to an election? I mean, the charter, we've talked about that in detail, the idea of the special town meeting being able to override some of those other other situations, so I'm just wondering if
Look
that...
into it. To look into the language
That's
in
a
the charter.
question for Roger. I don't know if that, could they do that? Could they override the charter, the special?
It's actually in
I
the charter
doubt
now,
it
so...
because.
Oh, it's in the charter now.
It's in the charter now.
There's an override provision in the charter. Does it refer to bonds specifically, or is it just budget items?
It could be anything, as far as that I know of. I don't think there's actually detailed on why you need to do the special
I
town
have to
meeting.
look, but my recollection is that it refers essentially to budget items, and the bond, when you float the bond, isn't a budget item. The budget item comes in later on when you're doing your debt service. So it may not be possible to override it.
I actually have that right here. It says, "Special town meeting, the qualified voters of the town shall have the power to reconsider any budget appropriation at a special town meeting called by petition."
Right, but
So that'd be budget only, that wouldn't be.
Right.
Right, that's all it says, though.
Budget.
Yeah.
So would they have to set a special public hearing tonight, or can they do it at the next meeting?
I kind of read that too, but I didn't want to argue with anybody.
They wanted to do this.
You can set a public hearing regarding, this is August, right?
We could do it at the next meeting.
September 2nd, you still have plenty of time. I
Well,
think
we
you
still
can
have another meeting in August, though.
Right, you can set your public hearing anytime prior to that November election, so. Public hearing in September.
Okay.
So we can do the public hearing in September if we have the language ready beforehand.
When you're ready.
So if we can put together revised language and maybe have legal take a closer look at it for us and make sure that we don't have any loose ends.
I would like, just to make sure, I would like to have that emergency situation put in.
Yeah, that's what
For
we're
sure.
going to look at.
Very good.
Yeah, that needs to be put in.
Oh, yeah.
Don Phillips from Lisbon. I just have one minor concern, and I don't think it's a big deal, but none of these figures, the 100,000 figure or the million figure, are ever adjusted for inflation. And as far as I know, our charter is not designed to be changed every couple of years. So I'm wondering if it could be considered or should be considered any inflationary factor in these things, because we've had, now we've had $100,000 for what, 5 or 6 years? In 15 years, are we still going to have $100,000, or do we need to change the charter again? So that's just my concern.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Any final words, Roger?
No?
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next item.
The town manager's report.
I have a few things. Today at 1 o'clock, I went to the library and got to sit on their final summer reading program. They put on quite a program, and there was a lady there with her 2 kids, and she paid the library director a great compliment and said this is one of the best programs she's ever enrolled her kids in, and she was going to do it again next year. So a lot of positive feedback on that program. The planning board is having a public hearing next week on the 14th at 7:30 to discuss the wellhead protection ordinance change, and also the signs, zoning ordinance Division 5 signs, new sign ordinance. So I thought I'd just let everybody know that they're having a public hearing next Thursday night at 7:30. The Androscoggin River Trail unveiling is going to happen. That's this week. Next week. It's next week.
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday, I'm sorry, same day, right? At 1 o'clock, sorry about that. And we hope that everybody will attend that. And then I just got reappointed to the Long-Term Care Study Commission by the governor. We have a little bit more work to do this fall so that we can present some more recommendations to the Blue Ribbon Commission. They had, this is kind of interesting, they had 4 different long-term care bills go through the legislature this past session. The only one that passed was the one that I worked on with my committee, LD 1776. Although it provided some relief, it's still not enough. But the other three didn't for whatever reason. But, you know, I understand the governor has come up with some money now, but it's really needed because since we worked on this, 2 more nursing homes, rural nursing homes, are closing in the state of Maine, one in Pittsfield and another one in Washington County. And, you know, both places have high main care populations, so whatever we do is going to affect nursing homes statewide. So it's going to be a positive effect on these nursing homes, whatever we can come out with. So I just wanted to let you know that I did get reappointed to that, and I'm really pleased with that. That's it.
Okay, next item, Twyla.
Audience participation for new items.
Dr. Fitzgerald. This week was a very interesting week. On Wednesday, the crew from Unitel began digging up the pavement along School Street from Berry Avenue to the center of Vining Street. It was done very professionally, very efficient. The trench was dug, the old soil was removed, the line was laid, and after everything was all filled in, they immediately, about an hour later, the paving crew arrived, and the trench was paved in from Berry Avenue to mid-Vining Street. Now, my building is on the corner of School and Vining, so I had a bird's-eye view of everything that went on, as well, not only visual, but hearing as well. Thursday, they began digging from Vining Street, and they left off at the curve of Route 196, just a little bit west of me. That trench was not filled in. I understand that Unitel was told that Lisbon would be repaving. I'm just wondering why Public Works Director or someone was not there to make sure that that trench was filled in, paved on Route 196. Motorists, they go up Route 196 while they go across School Street 45 miles an hour when it's 25-mile-an-hour zone. And people were hitting that ditch, that trench, whatever you want to call it. I could hear swearing on my front porch. I could hear motorists swearing. They were hitting that trench, something wicked. I was concerned about damage to vehicles. I called the police department, and that was about 8:30. Around 9 o'clock, a crew from Public Works arrived and filled in the trench. Well, when vehicles hit it, the dirt flies, and by 10 o'clock Friday morning, the same thing was happening. People were hitting that ditch, or whatever you want to call it. And so around 2:30, I called the police department again. I understand I'm not the only one that called. I asked that if they couldn't have somebody put a sign on Route 196 alerting the motorists to a hole, you know, what they do for potholes. And anyway, around 6 o'clock, Public Works was there again filling in the ditch. And I started calling local councilors, and I don't know who took action, but Public Works was there around 9 a.m. Saturday paving the trench. I want to praise the Public Works Department for filling in the trench each time, for coming overtime to fill in the trench. And I also want to praise Public Works Department because they arrived this morning to pave the trench from Vining Street all the way to Route 196. They did a tremendous job. They worked all day, and they did a great job, and I want to thank them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dot. I'm going to respond individually, just because I know that this is on our minds, Dot, because I was one of the folks that you called. Councillor Paskey was. I know that other councillors had calls. we do know who took action, and I would like to ask the town manager to give us that timeline and an explanation.
Right. On Thursday at approximately 11:09 a.m., they agreed at that time, Public Works, that they would gravel to the level of the pavement because the work was not done. They still hadn't done the connection. So when Ryan left work Thursday afternoon, he drove by the job site, and everything was level right up to the pavement. What happened after that, which I didn't know because I wasn't in the area either, was we had some rains. And when you have rains, that makes everything worse. I've been through this because I've been through construction projects for the same reason. When you're not done, you typically don't fill it in with pavement because you got to dig it back out. So what you have to do is you continue to maintain it, and that's what the Public Works did. You know, when the police department called them, or when I contacted them, because I also heard from counselors as well, Ryan was on it, and they were out there, and they were maintaining it the best that they could. And then they ended up, because of the complaints, they ended up just putting coal patch in Saturday morning. But typically, that's not what you do on a project like that. When it's not done. When it is done, then they will, you know, but it's awful costly, but if council wants to in the future to do that in any open trenches and we put coal patch in, we certainly can do that, but it will be an expense to the town, but we're willing to do that if that's what you want to do. But we did address it.
I think it was important. We've had issues on Route 196 just this past year when the water main broke. We had a similar problem. So I think that where the trench or hole or whatever it is located is really important. Route 196 has so much traffic, and when Mrs. Fitzgerald called me, I spoke to her at length twice, and I completely understood her frustration with it. And just from personal experience, and I think Councillor Pesky had personal experience with it too. Right. It was pretty bad, and the key is that it's Route 196. So I think if we're talking about Main Street or Route 196, one of those roads that's just never not traveled, that it's important to make sure that the safety measures are taken, and that and I understand that it made it harder for the work to be done again when the week started, but I think in terms of safety, public safety, that we have to weigh that on those main routes, on those extremely well-traveled roads.
Yeah.
And that's not an issue. We can do that.
I would suggest maybe we should adopt an official policy that would say if it's 196, maybe Main Street and like Route 9 should not be left unpaved overnight, you know, just because there's so much traffic there that it's going to pop right back out any gravel you put in there.
One thing that is easy that, you know, is for safety is our signs. Mm-hmm. You know, when I went through there twice, there was no sign, no cone, no nothing. So I had a good experience. I'm not going to say good, but I had a very interesting experience going through there. I won't share it now because it's long, but if a motorcycle went through, they would have wiped out, and it wouldn't have been good.
Yeah, I'm glad that it was taken care of as quickly as we could, and my understanding was that wheels were already in motion before we started getting phone calls, but getting the phone calls is still good to keep council aware of what's going on, so, okay. Mr. Fillmore?
Larry Fillmore from Lisbon. I need to correct a couple of things that was said. I went through there at 6:30 on Thursday night. Okay, now the workers had to have been gone just a couple hours. I was one of those people that Dot heard cussing because my car bottomed out. There wasn't dirt in that hole. 4 to 6 inches was that trench at 6:30 Thursday night. Okay? Now, it would not have been so bad, but like Dylan pointed out, there was not a sign there. The first time a sign was put up, was Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. Now, a lot of this could have been eliminated, okay, if we had people in the right positions doing their job. We got $1 million police force, and nobody called that a public safety hazard. Like Dylan said, if a motorcycle went through there and it's right at the top where you can't see it until you're on it, we could have had a very big liability issue. Posting signs would have eliminated a lot of the issues with this. But then again, why did it take 3 days to fix this or get signs out there or something to warn people of what's going on? I don't say that you had to pave it or do it or whatever, but warning the people is as important as anything. They should have been notified somehow. Cones, flags, fireworks, there's all kind of fireworks down there, so they should have had it right there to help the people. And I'm not, like you say, it's very expensive to pave in the middle of the night or whatever. But posting signs, having our police department, residents to me should not have to call when we have a police department cruising. They should have picked up on that first thing and reported it to somebody, or they have cones, I'm sure, or warning devices that they could put out there to warn motorists. Nothing was done. And I think that's just unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fillmore. I think that's, just to respond, I think that's what I had in mind, too, when I'm talking about safety measures, because I do remember when we had the water main break, it took a couple days to get cones out there, and maybe that could be one of the first things we do, not one of the last things we do. Yep. Yeah.
As I said, from my upper deck, I've got a bird's eye view, and there was quite a ditch there. When they hit that pavement at the other end of on the west end of the ditch, I mean, I wasn't concerned for myself. I was concerned for motorists. Damage to vehicles, that's what concerned me the most. And another thing that concerned me, the police were notified twice, and don't they cruise the streets? Didn't anybody go by? Didn't any police cruiser, police officer go by and notice that problem? Twice I requested a sign that says bump to alert motorists. Talking with somebody at Public Works yesterday, they said, well, or this afternoon when they were working out in front of my place, they said, well, all of our signs are still in storage. We don't know where anything is, but certainly somebody could have found an A-frame to put just before the trench to say bump, to warn motorists to slow down. I mean, that was just, Route 196 is heavily traveled, vacationers, Bath Iron Works, people coming home from work. It was just a not good situation at all.
Thank you, Dot. I'm going to say that I know that Mr. Fillmore and Mrs. Fitzgerald weren't the only people who took notice of that and made complaints. And I think as long as you follow through, Diane, for us, that I think we can consider that done. Is there any other comments or questions from the audience?
If I may. Fern Larshell, Lisbon Falls. One of the things I think Diane can look at is we actually have a hot top cut permit in town, so if any utility company cuts any pavement, they actually have to take out a permit. And part of that permit is quite lengthy, and maybe it just needs to be reviewed as far as for what that permit, the requirements, if it's cut, the length of time that needs to be paved. I think a lot of that's already in there, and I know it is a requirement unless in case of emergency. If the water department has to break at 3 a.m., they're not going to call for a permit. I mean, but most of the companies, like the gas companies and stuff, they do come in prior and get a authorization to cut. So, maybe that stuff's already there. Maybe it just needs to be revisited and make sure it's up on the permit. But my main reason to be is coming out front here is from the 196 group. We actually have had a couple meetings. And first of all, from the group, I want to thank the council for looking forward and actually allowing the $50,000 to be there for our match work, for our grant. Hopefully, we can actually move forward and actually do good things with it. It does actually perk up a committee when you actually have something to work towards and not just the idea of talking. So, again, from the group, I want to thank the council for thinking forward and actually allowing that to happen. With that, we actually have a couple of things we're working for, and we'll be coming up front of council, I believe, in the near future for a couple of them. Through our meeting, we're actually looking towards the grant process and what that's in detail, and actually going to start looking at doing some of the layout of what we will actually look for downtown on both downtowns, and how the improvements would be, and come forward to you with a plan. So if we were to get a grant, how they would actually move forward. The group is also working with departments, and that's one thing I want to also do, is to actually thank the town, and because part of our group is very influenced by department staff. So the staff of Lisbon's been working really very hard, and there's some true dedication from employees of the town to work extra late at evenings to meet with us to actually move this forward. I think it shows a lot of dedication of our employees, which doesn't happen every day, but without them, nothing would happen at all. So to me, that's really important. Also, the group's working for our downtown network, not so to speak a network, but a destination. So that's going to be really important moving forward with grants. As moving forward, realize that grants have a lot of things attached to them, and part of them is how we label our town and how we're showing we're going to move forward. So a lot of this is happening at the same time. The other thing that our group is actually looking forward to is actually working with the town and the departments to we're looking, how would I say this? We're taking other towns' ideas of how they've actually worked with facade grants. So facade grants can actually be in multiple different ways, whether it's actually helping improve the storefront of a business on 196, or we're coming up with a new side ordinance, how we can actually help maybe people improve the signage and actually make it consistent. So we're actually working with the town, and I know town employees are working very, very hard to find financing or monies available that won't actually be a burden to the citizens of Lisbon, which I think is really important. And there are some, with the good work of Diane and other folks, there's some monies out there that potentially could be used for some of this if it's actually appropriated in the proper way. So I think we'll move forward, and once we actually have that all detailed, we'll actually come up front of council and hopefully show you a plan what we'd like to do. There's a lot of outside groups that of citizens in town that actually have been working on facade type programs too. So I think if we all work together, maybe we can actually put some shine on 196, which I think would be really good, especially if new businesses are coming in. I think that's going to make a big difference. Just on top of that, too, I mean, the August 14th is the Thursday, right, for the ribbon cutting of the trail. We actually, not really supposed to be on the trail yet, but many people have taken a sneak peek, and I have, and it's beautiful. I mean, I'm not sure if anybody's had a chance to walk that trail, but that is definitely a gem for Lisbon. I mean, the Androscoggin River is definitely something really nice to look at, and I think it's going to draw a lot of people in the town. Even with that, the importance of what we kind of look forward to is actually extending that sidewalk down at the end. There's been a lot of people on the trail that I've stopped and talked to, and they really were asking about the different areas that you could park and actually walk the trail, whether it's all going to be at the boat launch or the school at the other end, if there's going to be parking on the Lisbon Falls side. And hopefully at some point we will be able to have connected to that park and ride so people can, because if you haven't noticed, that's a pretty happening place on weekends, and that boat launch gets pretty full, and I'd really hate to think that we'd have it full of regular people walking and people pulling to put the boat in the water and have no place to put it in, because to get that grant to have the boat launch, we had so many places to actually park boats. And on some weekends, I mean, it is standing room only when it comes to parking. So as we grow, hopefully we can actually expand that out and make it work. But that ribbon cutting is going to be a start of something really big, because that trail is beautiful. I mean, it is really fun to walk. And everybody you see walking the trail is walking with a smile, because it's definitely, not only is it nice, it's it's going to burn off some calories when you start walking all the way through that trail. So again, I just want to thank the council to allowing us actually in our groups to move forward and do some good stuff. And as we move forward, I'm sure we'll be coming in front of the council and explaining what we're doing and not so much what we're doing, what we're trying to do and how we plan it, and hopefully get your approval. Thank you.
So is that all done now? Is that trail completed, or?
I believe.
The grand opening is Thursday.
I saw 3 bicyclists coming down it at about 10 or 11 o'clock at night with lights on their bikes, so I'm pretty sure they were coming from somewhere. And as far as the parking goes, yes, it sucked this weekend because I was down there on my motorcycle to park. I had to park on the side because I didn't want to take up one of the few remaining boat spots left.
Now, on the other side, by the Big Dipper, is that other parking, is that Crafts?
I have a question on that because I really don't know. It actually is, it really looks like parking, but I'm not sure. I mean, I guess that's something we'll have to really, we'll have to talk with Ryan about, is how much land was acquired with that. I mean, it really looks like it's really nice parking at this point, but I mean, I haven't seen Randy put up any cones or signs yet or anything like that. But it, again, I mean, I think we're going to have to get all the parking we can because, you know, it's going to be a destination for a lot of people to come to.
Sounds like yet another question for Diane.
Yeah.
Yay.
Where's the parking, Diane?
One of the things that I know our group's been working on and our townspeople have been working on is we actually received a grant of $10,000, I think it's, Diane, to actually help improve some of the signage. There was a grant that some of that could be used for signage. It wasn't for all of it. And hopefully we're going to be able to work forward to actually using proper signage, so when people are coming in town, we can actually help them direct to, you know, Lisbon's walking trail, parking, additional parking, you know, so we can actually help, because we don't want the boat launch to get to the point where it's an issue. A lot of people don't realize they can go to the central, you know, to the school and actually park at the other side, which has unlimited parking, but it's really not one of those areas that you driving through 196 are going to say, I'm going to take a right, you know, turn out Mill Street and go down this way. So a lot of people have a lot of interest in that trail, and I think it's going to be a really key factor to Lisbon. And, you know, there's already talk about, you know, village-to-village walks where you actually can, which is going to be awesome. I mean, just think about it. When that trail is complete, you'll be able to walk from the Lisbon Village to the Lisbon Falls Village safely, you know, and it's going to be quite a walk, but it's going to be a nice, safe walk. So I think it offers the town a lot. I think now we just got to really benefit by it and then actually make sure it's convenient for people and make sure people are not parking in areas they're not supposed to be able to access this. That's all. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you.
Fern brought up an interesting thing. A lot of people come to walk the trail, but do they spend any money here? Perhaps at the boat launch area, a sign could be erected advertising all of our local businesses, Lisbon, Lisbon Falls. How about that? Use some grant money to erect a sign. Don't have the businesses pay for it. I mean, a lot of businesses can't afford it, but it's a thought. How about a sign advertising our local businesses, restaurants, gas stations, whatever. Food City, free advertising. Hope you enjoy our, we're glad you enjoy our walking paths. Now spend a little bit of money here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have nothing else?
One thing for the record, I did go through 196 on my motorcycle Thursday and Friday. I must have hit it at the right time because I didn't even notice the trench other than to see it. It's fine. So I hit it at the right times, I assume, because it was nice and smooth when I went over it both times. So I was like,
enough, you don't even notice.
I didn't.
Oh, yes, I do. Believe me,
I didn't notice it a
bumps.
couple of times, but I did notice it a third or fourth time, yeah.
I did the same thing, because everybody knows what I drive, but also I live on Main Street, and I make about 50 passes a day. Trench was fairly smooth than what's on Main Street, so.
All right.
Then, exactly.
I think we've responded as we've gone, so we're ready to move on to the item after that.
Yep, so it would be Counselor Communications.
Okay. I'll start only because I had saved my comments about the trail for this. I had the opportunity to take kayaks out on the Androscoggin at the boat launch on Friday after I got out of work. We went for a quick paddle around and then out onto the river. It was a little on the choppy side, but it was hard to find a parking space, which was a good thing. It was full of both people bringing canoes and kayaks in and out, and also with people walking and bicycling. And I mean, by 7 o'clock, I was pulling out my kayak, and there was a whole new set of vehicles in the parking lot. It was really a great thing to see, and it just struck me, everybody looked like they were taking it so much in stride, so like, oh yes, this is our path, we've always had this. So it was really great to see, and not only for attracting outsiders, but I think for our own enjoyment and good health, I think it's a really wonderful thing for the town. Do we have any other communications? Okay. Next item, Twyla.
Is Order 2014-152 to go into executive session per 1 MRSA Section 4056E, consultations with legal counsel?
Do we have a motion to move into executive session?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Order passed, 6-0.
You?
No votes after?
Are we voting after? You have anything to vote on, do we?
I don't believe so.
We're not voting on anything, are we, Roger?
I don't think so.
So we won't vote. Okay. Thank you.
We're going to do it here or over there?
Let's do it right in there, and I'm just going to run and get another glass of water real quick.
So these real quick.